Hello everyone and welcome to this video on integrating Power BI. I'm Tim Weinzaffel, and in this video I am going to talk about exporting data from Power BI to CSV. This is part 2, and this is going to be around exporting data to a CSV file when you have more than 1,000 records. Now in my last video, and I'll put a link to that video right here, I showed how you could create a button and embed it on your Power BI report to allow your users to export data very quickly and easily and have it emailed to them in a CSV format. The only issue was you were limited to 1,000 rows because of a cap that you have when integrating Power BI with Power Automate. However, if you are having more than 1,000 rows, there is a couple of ways around it, and in this video I'm going to show one approach to doing that. Now, let me jump over to a quick demonstration and show you what I mean. Here I've got a very simple Power BI report, and I have this table visual, and this is where I want to allow the user to be able to export this data to, say, a CSV file because maybe they want to use it in Excel. And what I want it to do is get around having to, if I click on this, the ellipsis up here and go to export data, I've got a very simple button that I can click, and now it is actually converting that table to a CSV file and then emailing to me. And if I just go to my email, I will see there is the CSV file that was sent to me. Now, in my last video, I showed a very easy way to do that, and you'll see in this case, I've got only 240 records. But I also have this table filtered. So if I go ahead and clear this filter, you can see that this table now has over 3,000 records. And if I go ahead and I push this button again, it is only going to pass the first 1,000 records because that is a limit that you have with the integration with Power BI and Power Automate in terms of sending data between the two applications. However, there is a couple of ways around that, and in this video we are going to do that. Before we get too deep into this, I do want to do a quick call out that I have a complete write-up of everything that I'm going to go through on my blog. I will put a link to that blog in the description below, so be sure to check that out as well. Let me also give just a quick summary of the 4 steps that we're really going to take here. That essentially is going to be, we're going to use a paginated report, and if you're not familiar with them, don't worry, I'm going to show a very quick and easy way how to create them. We are then going to add parameters to that paginated report, and again, that will be very easy to do. We do have to create just a couple of DAX measures depending on if you are using any filtering, and then lastly, we will dive into that Power Automate flow. So the first thing we're going to need is a paginated report. Now, if you're not familiar with paginated reports, I'm going to walk through and show you just how easy it is to build one, and I don't need it to be fancy. So we're going to, let's just jump right in and I'll show this. But you'll see here, I actually have an example of one, and this just gives you an example of what a paginated report looks like. This one has no formatting, so it probably spans several pages and with several columns. Again, I don't care how it looks. All I need is that it to be created because this is what gets exported to a CSV file in Power Automate. So I'm going to jump back over here. Let's jump back over here to my Power BI. Now, I am going to start with a published report because it is very easy to do. So here is the report that I have, and you'll see I've got the report, and here is the semantic model. So all I have to do is go up to the semantic model and go in here, click on the more options, and go into create paginated report. It will open up the report builder in Power BI service. Now there is a desktop version for building out paginated reports. You can use either or. I find this one to be very easy. And again, all I really need is to pull in the data fields or even measures if you had them. In my case, I don't, but and let's go through that. So I'm going to go over here to my data fields, and I only need a few here. So I'm going to pull in airport name. Let's pull in carrier name, and we can pull in month, and let's pull in year. And this is a total flights. Now this is a numerical. This is number of flights in some airlines. And it's going to add, if I see here, it's adding this total line here. And I don't want a total line. So I just clicked on here and I see an option here to include total. I'm going to uncheck that because I don't need totals. And there is a sample of my report. Now, here's the thing to be aware of when you're dealing with paginated reports. When I go to run this, it is going to run and display all the records because it is not filtered. Let me jump back over to my report here, and let me go to, let's go to the actual report, because what I want to do, and let me clear some filters here, is my table that I want to be able to export is over 3,000 records. And I can go up here and I can filter. So let's say I'm a user and I want to filter to 2024. Now I'm down to 1,500 records. Now I need to be able to pass these filters because right now my paginated report is just pulling in all of these data fields and there is no filter applied. I need a way to be able to pass my filter that I'm selecting here. So in this case, it's year. And let's say I go to select multiple carriers. Let's say I select, these carriers. What I need to do now is pass this information to my paginated report. One little tip down here, and you can see these are, and I will get into these because these are just simple DAX measures that I've created, but this is the data. These are the filters that I want to pass this information to the paginated report, so then it filters them down to the year and the carrier name. So those are the two slicers I have. So to do this, what you can do is create in your paginated report what is called a parameter, and that is essentially that filter that you can do. So here I am, and the way to do that is if I just go over here to filters, you'll see I've got a list of all my fields, and I want to include a parameter to carrier names. Let's go here to more options. Let's click that and let's do create parameter. It's going to ask me. I'm going to say yes. And let's see here. And I want to do one for year as well. So let's go ahead and create parameter. So now you'll see I've got this little thing here. And when you go to run these, it's going to ask for these carrier names. And if I run this report, it'll actually do that. I don't really care about this here in the paginated report. What we're going to do in the flow is I will show how to pass the information for this paginated report so that it will filter this and then export only the data you need. So we've done this. We've created our paginated report. We've added in our parameters. And again, you're going to need to do this for every filter that you are going to be using. So the other thing I will be very careful of is, let me go over here in my report, and I don't have an example here, but let's say I had another visual over here, say it was a bar chart, and I was clicking on that and it was filtering this table. Right now the way I'm setting this up is I have to use these slicers, so we can just be cognizant of that. So let's jump over now to the Power BI desktop and let's start building out this flow. So here we are in Power BI Desktop, and the next step that I want to do is I need to create a couple of measures, one measure for every slicer that I'm going to have that's going to be used to be passed to my flow. Now, in my previous example of the simpler flow example, what you would have is here would be my button that I would run. And in fact, I think I have an example here. There it is. Here is the table that I wanted to export. I've got my flow up here, and these are all of the same fields that would correspond here. That's what I'd be passing in the other flow, the one when you're dealing with less than 1,000 records. In this case, because we are using now a paginated report, we don't want to pass any of these data fields to the flow because we don't need that information. What we need is the filter information. So I've got an example down here, and I've got a couple of measures. So let me walk through what I've done. And I'm going to use this. I'm going to use two different slicers. I've got a year slicer, and I have a carrier name. And again, these are the same. They're the same titles as what's in my paginated report. Makes it easy. And you can see if I select 2023, I've got a filter over here. This is what I'm passing over to the paginated report to say only filter to 2023. And if I go up here to my carrier, and let's say I just select two of them, you're going to see it is passing basically these two separated by a comma and no space. That's the other thing too, just to be aware of. We don't want any spaces. I will probably cover that again. So the way I'm doing this, these are two simple measures. And let me go ahead and let me pull one of the measures up. And all I am doing here is the measure. So this is the measure for the, let's drag this filter down just so you can see. Here's my slicer. And all I'm using is the concatenate X function with the values of the year. And then I'm separating everything by a comma with no spaces. So that is all I am doing. It's just some simple DAX, and it will create this measure now that will concatenate in a list separated by a comma of every filter that is being used. And you'll see too, if I go ahead and if I select both, it's got both listed, and if I deselect, it's still going to list everyone because those are the values that I want to pass along. And the same with the carrier. So I've created those two measures. Now that I've got those measures done, I need to create my Power Automate button. So again, Power Automate button right here, which I've got added. And again, instead of adding your data columns right here, you'll notice that I've got the two measures. So it's this information here. This is being passed over to the flow. Let's go ahead and walk through the flow. All right, so we'll go up here. We'll go ahead and edit. And again, we are doing this all in Power BI. And I've already got the flow created, so I'm just going to open this up and we're just going to walk right through every step. We'll go ahead and edit that. All right, so we've got a number of things here, but I'm going to break this down to make it a little simpler. What you're going to see is here's the button, here's the trigger, so the button has been clicked. We are going to initialize a variable. So now this is the initialize variable action. If you just go up into here, let's go ahead and just pull that up real quick. If I go to built-in variable, there is an initialize variable action. So that's all that was done there. And what I am doing is I give it a name. So this is VAR filter, and you want to have it as an array because we need to create a JSON format that will be passed on to when we export the paginated report. That's going to contain all of the filters. So we do that. Now, this next section, you're going to see a bunch of steps. Let's walk through this section here, and it's this one right here. Just only worry about this, ignore these two down here. This section here is what we'll essentially do for each filter we have. And essentially all we're going to be doing is going through the filter and pulling out all the individual elements, and then we're going to populate this filter array with all of the information. And then we will do that for every single slicer we have. Once you create one, it goes by very quickly. All three of these are, I believe these are compose actions, but let's go ahead and walk through each one. So I've got my variable, my array created. Let's go ahead and close that. Next thing what I want to do now, this is actually the select function. So if I go up here to add an action, and if I go to built-in and then data operation, there is this select function right here. And that allows you to pull out individual elements from arrays, for example. And that's what I want to do here because remember, let's close this. What I am passing over are two different values. I'm passing over the year filter and then the carrier. So in this case, I just want to pull out, again, this is just I'm pulling from the Power BI data down here. And what I want is I want the year. So again, I've got the filter year right here, and I'm pulling just that out. And I will show here right alongside the video the output of that so you can see that as we go along. Once we do that, what I need to do is convert that to a string format. So this is simply a compose action. Again, let's just go up here to add an action. Go to built-in, data operations, and this is just a very simple compose action. And I am simply using a join function. Let's expand that here. And all I am joining is the body, the output of this, basically it is the output of above here. So if I were, and then adding a comma, so it would be the same as if I went join, go to your dynamic content, and here's the output, and then joining it by a comma, no spaces. I'm not going to update that, and that will be that. That will convert that to a string. Again, let me put the output of that so you can see that as we go. The last thing I want to do is now split this string, because if you are passing along multiple values, I want to now split this, and it's simply the splitting the output from up here. And again, you have to have provided the delimiter, and I am using the comma here. So very simple, simply splitting the output from the previous step. Now, this is all going to get wrapped in an apply to each. So just to show you where the apply to each is, I'll go to add an action. If you go into control here, you'll find the apply to each. And what this will do is this will loop through, because, for example, if I am passing along 2 years, right, 2023, 2024, and I'm splitting that string from this step, I now have 2 actions, and I want to loop through that twice. So let's go ahead and close this. And here's what I want to do. Essentially, all I am going to do is loop through each of those filter actions, and I'm going to append it to the array. Now, this is where I am now adding back to my filter array, and you have to make sure you use this name value format. You give it the name, and this is in that JSON format. There's the curly brackets. I have the double quotes, name, colon, and then this is the name of your parameter. Make sure this matches the same name of the parameter of your in your paginated report. And then the value is just the current item. Again, if you go to dynamic content, it will just be the output of, if I can find it here. There it is, way down at the bottom. It's just the current item. And that is going to now build up into this array all of the filters that you need. And that's all you have to do. So I did this for the year. And then I would go ahead and recreate and do the same exact thing for the my carrier name, my other filter. And I actually found there are slightly different ways to do this. But again, the goal was to continue to build out this array of this name value. And again, I'm going to show the output of an example of how this array will look, so that you can see that as you go along and actually see some of the data. I'm going to go ahead and skip these, because these were just some additional steps. These were some the steps around the carrier, but again, I would just follow this exact process here. Then all I do is go into my Power BI connection, get the export to file for paginated reports. Let's expand that. Very straightforward. Choose your workspace and your report. Export format for CSV. There are a number of parameters here. I skipped all of this. But down at the bottom, you have this parameter values option. And this is where you simply put in that variable, that array filter that you created using all of the previous steps. That will then pass those filters that you've passed from your Power BI button to the paginated report, exporting it to CSV, and now I can go to my send an email. I would close, let's go to here, and again, I could do add dynamic content, user email, body, the test, exported data, adding whatever information you want to the body, go down here to advanced options, give it a name, and make sure you add the .csv, and again, you can use dynamic content. Here I just hard-coded it, and then it is just the file content from that previous step. And that's all there is. So when I go to run this, if I choose any filters, it will go ahead and filter all that down and export only the data that has been filtered from that paginated report, convert it to a CSV file, and then email to me as the report user. So let's go ahead and run a quick test. I'm going to go ahead and select 2024, and I will select only 3 airlines. Now, there is only 313 rows. That's perfectly fine to have less than 1,000 because I just want to do this as a test. We'll go ahead and click Run Flow. It's now triggering. So we should see just data for these filtered items. So we'll give that a second to come through. Okay, the email came in. Here it is. Let's go ahead and click on the CSV file. And what we should see is only about 300 rows, which we do, 314. And you're going to see only the airlines that we have selected and only for 2024. So that is one approach to exporting more than 1,000 records to a CSV file. I've seen other approaches, but this one I found pretty easy to do, involving paginated reports. So I hope you found this helpful. I'll continue to be doing more videos on the integration with Power BI. So if you like this video, please hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, and thank you so much for watching.